Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Erin Sulley. Thanks very much for tuning in tonight. So the IceCaps, they clinched a spot in the playoffs this past weekend as they faced off against the Toronto Marlies. And this coming weekend, they enter round one of the AHL playoffs as they're up against Syracuse Crunch. And joining me now are two gentlemen who've been watching this season very closely, IceCaps Live Analyst Randy Pearcey and Carl Lake, owner of the sports page, and they've got lots to say. So let's get to it. I was down at the game, well, it was Saturday night's game that I was down to, of course, at Mile 1. The place, I mean, the vibe was great. It felt like it was, you know, a few years ago. Lots of activity, and the fans were chanting, which is, you know, something that I did truly miss as a season ticket holder. But curious as to your thoughts on the actual games, Randy?
Well, the Friday night game, they should not have won. They didn't win. They didn't put their heart and soul into it. You know, like when you play the last two games and you got to win one of those games, then you got to come out with emotion. You got to play with emotion. You got to play that as the last shift. And they did it Saturday night, but they certainly did not Friday night. And there were times on Saturday night when they started to fall asleep. But this team is a bit of an inconsistent team, and they've showed it all year long. They play terribly at home, and they're the best road team in their division. I'll go figure that one out. And the St. John's fans are usually pretty good fans. So most teams will use a team base as you know, the home ice advantage, but they certainly do not. No. So this looks good to me, as they may have 3 games on the road.
All right, Carl, let's bring you into the picture. Your thoughts?
Many people would think about it. If you were playing on the road, you're at a disadvantage. I mean, you know that for yourself in playing hockey and going and covering hockey. If you're on the road, buddy, you're in a disadvantage. But as you say, with the IceCaps, it seems they're in a disadvantage at Mile 1, but they're on the road. They're a different bunch of people or animals on the ice. And I got to agree, Randy, I mean, the past weekend, sweet mother of God, it was desperation hockey. You had to win. It's either win and you're out. And it's a lackadaisical attitude down there. My God, it's unreal. You know,
I don't know. Like professional hockey, it's different. I mean, it's different than senior hockey that I played, or whatever, college hockey or Allen Cup hockey. It's completely different than that. You don't play 100 games a year. These guys play 100 games a year, and you're like the robots. Well, all you got to do is look no further than the playoffs on television right now. Yeah. It's the best hockey ever. People are looking at it and they're saying, "Oh man, this is unreal." Why? Because the guys are sort of, as the season goes along, they pace themselves. And I think the American Hockey League does the same thing. And I don't understand why. Think about it, Carl. Really, they're trying to get to the show. And you think they would be going all out every shift, every game. But they don't. And the guys that get called up are guys that are prospects. Whatever you want to consider a prospect. I know what they consider a prospect, and some of the guys who are the better players do not get as much ice time as they should because they're not what you call prospects.
But if you compare this series coming up and this team, the way they play, as compared to, say, the first year the St. John's Maple Leafs were here, and they got into the Calder Cup final. I mean, here's a group that was focused. We're going to win. We're in front of a home crowd. We got to win. We're going to win. And then when they lost that Game 7 at home, it's like the entire world collapsed. But I don't think you're going to see that with the IceCaps if they lose. It's unfortunate. But you saw the reaction of Felix Potvin when he came out on the ice, and Guy Lehoux. I mean, these guys were loved here. But you talk to some people and try to associate with one player here, like they did when they had the Maple Leafs here. Big difference.
Well, you know, it's sort of ironic that you say that, because that first year they lost to the Adirondack Red Wings, okay? And every single game was won by a visiting team. Yeah. So it goes against all the principles of home ice advantage. And like, I think in the playoffs, you can throw this home ice advantage out the window. So all you got to do is look at the first couple of games now in the NHL. The winning team is a team that basically gets the jump. They get great goaltending, and the IceCaps got great goaltenders. They got an experience.
Well, you look at Lindgren and what he's been doing.
And like, he's the goalie of the future for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm telling you right now, Zach Fucale is not. Zach Fucale was a first-round draft choice, and where's he to? Playing the East Coast League. Yeah. And credit to him, he showed up 2 weeks ago, and he shut out a team 1-0, so they could really make a run for the playoffs. But this guy Lindgren is a goalie. This guy is a goalie. If anybody out there does any research, as a kid is watching, research him. He didn't make his high school hockey team. Hey, so what would most kids do? Well, they probably quit, but no. He continued and continued, and he worked hard, and he is where he is now. And the IceCaps are going to have to depend on him highly, Carl, if they're going to go anywhere in these playoffs.
Well, let's talk about this weekend going into it. What do you think that they have to do to get these games against the Syracuse
Well, as Randy said, their goaltending got to hold up, and I think another player that's got to come is going to come forward, is going to have to come forward, is the leading scorer, Chris Terry. He's going to have to prove. Now, like you were saying before we went on air, yeah, he's a bit slow, but he's got to come around. But the whole team, this has got to be a full team effort. Get out, fight, and you got to fight in the corners. If you go in the corners and you're fighting and you get that puck loose, you don't know what can happen. But they got to go, and they got to prove they're hungry. They got to prove, look, we got to win this. We want to win a Calder Cup, but you don't see that with this team.
No, but you never know when the playoffs come around. The only thing is, like, I always believe, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I don't care what sport you play, whether you're playing soccer, you're playing tiddlywinks, or whether you're playing baseball, or hockey, or basketball. Your better players in the playoff have to be your better players. You can win an individual game by a third or fourth liner scoring a big goal for you, but you have to consistently win 16 games to move on and to win the Calder Cup. And I really believe that they're better players, the Houdans, the Terrys. These guys got to step to the forefront, and they got to show up. The big thing, a big disadvantage they got here is that the Montreal Canadiens are in the playoffs, and they don't have any help being sent down.
Well, that's how I was going to bring that up, because they're certainly not going to do that.
Whereas the Syracuse team does. Yeah. I was in Florida 2 weeks ago, and I watched the Detroit Red Wings play the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Tampa Bay was on a roll, Carl. They had won 8 out of 10 games. And I went to the game live, and they had 3 kids that are down here playing with the Crunch right this weekend. So they're going to have their hands full. One of them, as a matter of fact, this kid Gowdy, you want to call him? He scored in overtime on 3-on-3. Okay, that won 1 game. And this guy, they got a guy, Adam Ernie. He's a great player. And do not forget, one of the guys that's going to come back to bite him in the proverbial behind will be Gabriel Dumont. Yeah, Dumont, they did not want him, and he went to, and I watched him play. He won every faceoff, and that's going to be a problem for the IceCaps. Write it down. As
I say, as you look at it, you got to be hungry. You got to be out there to play. The other thing you look at in this series, you got to stay out of the penalty box, and you got to stop taking cheap penalties that they take during games during the year. If you don't, you're going to be down 3 or 4 goals before you can even move out on the ice.
Well, you're right. I mean, the penalty killing with the IceCaps is probably one of the worst in the league. The power play has sort of phased out. Syracuse got some quick forwards that I know what they're going to do. They're going to dump, they're going to chase, and they're going to frustrate the IceCaps defensemen. And when you do that, the IceCaps defenseman and the defensive system runs around in their own zone. And that can be a major problem, especially in the playoffs. But I'll tell you, I'm going to be looking forward to watching this Syracuse team, and also to see how the IceCaps react to it. I mean, you never know when the playoffs roll around. Look at Nashville. They're up 3 games to nothing against Chicago. And I bet you that there was at least half the people that were betting on games bet on the Chicago Blackhawks to win the Stanley Cup again this year, and they could be knocked out tonight.
Well, now that I've to ask you, since you're saying, you know, betting on games, in terms of predictions, some people don't like to make them or not, but Carl, what are your thoughts going forward?
Boy, you know, if it takes some of the players that have been sent down or haven't been sent up and so forth, I mean, these teams were even during the regular season against each other. They both had 2 wins and 1 loss each. Terry was probably a better scorer than what was on with the Syracuse Crunch. If they can pull off a couple of wins at home, they got a chance. But if they lose 1 at home, it's an uphill battle. And as you said, what's been sent down, I think that they're going to find themselves out in probably 3, maybe 4 games.
I don't make predictions in the playoffs. I said that at the beginning of this year, I said that the IceCaps would make the playoffs, something that they didn't do last year. But I said they would make the playoffs. They've lost a lot of players that they had from the starting lineup this year. But what it does, this is a development league. And it's development in the playoffs, too, to see how well you can play in the playoffs. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Houdans and these guys play, because I don't know if he's going to get a shot in Montreal.
It would have been interesting, as we were saying, if McCarron had been sent back instead of sitting on the bench in Montreal, which is what he's doing right now. If McCarron comes back, that would be a big help to this team. But will they do it? I doubt it.
You watch and see, because I did last weekend. We did both games last weekend, last Friday and Saturday night. And I watched with Bill, and the IceCaps lost 75% of the faceoffs in their own zone. And if you lose faceoffs in your own zone, you're up a creek without a paddle, because the other team gets control of the puck. And the Marlies, who they played last weekend, They basically had nothing to win, go for. They really didn't. Who cares about first place? I mean, we were emphasizing the fact that they were going for first place, but I really think that winning face-offs in your own zone is a key and a must in the playoffs.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We are all out of time. I want to thank you both for joining me here this evening. We'll have to have you back on, of course, as you know, fingers crossed that they
you
go
might
forward.
have to do it in Florida because I'm going to Florida still with this weather.
Hey, I can do it in Florida. I don't mind. Thanks very much,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Well, we would love to hear your thoughts. How far do you think the IceCaps will go in the playoffs? You can call us at 757-9600. Email your answer to outofthefog@rci.rogers.com, or send us a message on Twitter, on Facebook. We're all over the place. We're going to take a very quick break right now, but stay tuned as Loideta Cueco of Sharing Our Cultures joins me to give you all the details that you need to know about their Canada 150 Youth Video Contest. We'll be right back. Stay with us.